Good morning. I'm going to give people a chance to get in. I'm a little bit early logging in, so we're going to give people an opportunity to get here. Got some people coming in. Welcome, welcome. Let everybody in. Welcome, welcome. Glad you are here. Welcome, everybody. Morning, afternoon, depending where you are. I'll give people a chance to get logged in, get settled. Welcome, welcome. Glad that you are here. You're here for Financial Foundation to Entrepreneurial Peace Training, which is fantastic. I'm going to get Sean. He's going to give us a wave. He's going to drop some stuff in the chat for you in a minute. Hi, Pratik. Yeah, perfect. He just dropped the link so you can grab your workbook if you didn't have a chance to download it, so that you can follow along with that, which is wonderful. Perfect. We'll give people another minute or two to join us. I know it's Monday, so everybody's kind of getting settled for the week and getting started with everything on their list. And I know I had a couple notes from people who are going to catch it on the replay. They're not able to make it live today. So those who are here, drop in the chat where you are joining us from. Where are you located? Hey, Connor. To let us know where you're from. I'm right now in Nova Scotia, in Fall River, Nova Scotia, Canada. So Sean is joining from rainy Toronto. Very good. Connor too, I think. May not be rainy where he is. Excellent. I'm gonna give people one more minute and then we're gonna get started. Okay, perfect. It's going to be a great week. I'm very much looking forward to it. So we'll give people one more minute to jump in and then we're going to dive right in with the training. We'll get started and make sure we make the best use of the time. All right, so let's get started. I know, as I said, you are in the right place for Financial Foundation to Entrepreneurial Peace Training. Very much looking forward to this week. We're going to learn the keys to financial basics and money mastery. And so I'm so glad that you're here. As I said, if you can, drop us a note, let us know where you're joining in from. And important to know that this week is all about you. So very much want to know what you're looking forward to getting out of it. Very much want you to get the questions answered that you have. Hey, Judy, welcome. Very much want you to take away things that are going to be practical and tangible so that you can make the most of those in your business. So really want to be able to empower you to take control of the business and the financial side of it. So that's excellent. My name is Tracy Bissett. I'm going to be your trainer this week. So certainly very excited to be here. By way of background, I was an executive with TD Bank, one of Canada's big 5 banks. For 8 years, I worked there for 16 in the areas of commercial lending and risk management. And so absolutely was responsible for supporting entrepreneurs across all different industries, all across Canada, as well as the US, and looked after loan approvals as well. Hi, Angela, welcome. I think Nancy is here and Pratik.
Hello.
So that's great. Good morning, how are you?
Great.
Thanks for being here. So if you want to drop in the chat where you're joining us from, that would be excellent. And Sean, who is on my team, is here. He has just dropped the link in the chat for your workbook if you haven't downloaded it yet, so that you're able to follow along the training. So that's wonderful. So you can grab that. It's going to be the same workbook for the whole week. So once you download it, you're all set. Okay. As I was saying, was a bank. Oh, great. From Northwest Arkansas. That's great, Angela. Thanks. So as I was saying, I was a banker for many years, supporting businesses of all different sizes, all different industries, either helping on the lending side, so helping to structure the transactions, or I spent many years on the adjudication side where I was approving loans. From there, I went on to start my own business and wanted to keep working with business owners, a really big part of that. And so it's my privilege to be a financial coach for businesses to help make sense of the stuff that for some reason business owners think they're supposed to know, but I'm not sure where they would have got the training unless they went to school for it. And even that, when you're learning things in a degree, you're usually learning things at a really big corporate level, which is very different than when you're running your business and what that day-to-day looks like. And so absolutely my privilege to support business owners with all things financial related. Certainly love understanding and talking about cash flow, which we're going to spend a lot of time on this week, which is fantastic. So very excited that you are here with us. As you know, we've got 5 days of training. Today, we're going to start with Cash Flow 101 and why it's important to know that for know your numbers. On Tuesday, it's Cash Flow Forecasting 101, so you can actually move forward and make a forecast in your business. Day 3, which is Wednesday, is always a very exciting topic. It brings up sometimes emotion for people, but it's also a really informative one, which is Pricing 101. And I work with business owners with sales up to about $2 million across all different industries. And I can tell you that 85% of those businesses that I work with are not pricing their products and services profitably. And what does that do? That really leads to not getting a steady paycheck. That leads to things not going as nicely as planned. So we're going to dig into that on Wednesday. Thursday is all around, and that's session number 4, around stakeholder conversations and having those challenging money conversations and keeping them very issue focused. And then on Friday, we're going to put that full set of keys together so that you can put all of those things into practice, which is great. So Judy's got her location dropped there. So she's in Halifax, just like me in Nova Scotia right now. Get the workbook if you haven't got it. And we're actually going to get started with your workbook. So it looks like this. So just to give you a little bit of walkthrough of the workbook, you're going to see there's for today, we have 3 pages, and then every other day we've got 2. If you look on to page 15, excuse me, we've got some resources, and I am the host and executive producer of the Young Money podcast, where we make sense of money really around all kinds of topics, but we've pulled out some very specific business podcast episodes that are listed here on page 15 for you, so that you can check that out. And the very last item there, I am an activator with SheEO, which is an organization started in Canada, but has made its way to the US, Australia, New Zealand, as well as the UK. And women take their money and invest in other women-led ventures, which is excellent. And so I've got a series of interviews there with really powerhouse women talking about the financial side of their business, but also talking about other things there as well. So that is excellent. On the page 16, you're going to see some resources in terms of routines. So we're going to talk through these as we go through the week, but just wanted to make sure you knew they were there. Pages 13 and 14, you can certainly make use of for notes, in addition to being able to fill your workbook if you've got it on paper or if it's fillable as well. Okay. Any questions so far? Let me know in the chat. And I'd love to hear from everybody about what you're hoping to get out of the week. That would be great if you want to drop that in the chat for me, or you can mute.
It's easier to speak, so I'll go ahead. Just, you know, as a business owner, a better understanding of all these foundations, just better understanding of business finances so that we can forecast properly and plan properly for money coming in.
Excellent. And do you want to share with everybody what your business is?
Yeah, I co-own Habit Studio. We're a residential design business here in Halifax. We design sustainable homes.
Excellent. That's wonderful. How about you, Angela? Are you comfortable sharing?
Yes. Hi.
Hi. Nice to have you here.
What I hope to get is I've just actually, my printer's printing, sorry about that. I just actually started my own business in coaching widows in all facets of what they walk through after the death of a spouse.
Okay. And when you say you just started, how soon is that?
Well, I've been training since last August. I'm pretty soon. I haven't even started with the first client yet. So whatever you teach will be very helpful.
Excellent. Well, that's good. And it's always, no matter where you're starting and where you are today in your business, is going to be helpful. So great. If you're just at the beginning, you're going to be able to put all these things in practice. Judy is going to be able to evaluate what I'm seeing against what they're currently doing and see what they might want to refine. Anybody else want to share? Pratik, I know you're here to see what you can learn in terms of helping people as you do consulting. So that's great. And I'm seeing this one, Mountains No Keeper, but I'm not sure the person's name. So we'll just leave them quietly. And if they want to drop something in the chat, that would be great. That's excellent. All right. So that is wonderful. Really excited to have you here. So let's get started on page 2 of your workbook. And today it's Cash Flow 101 and why it's important to know your numbers. And so I can tell you that business owners that have the most success know their numbers. They use them to actually work through as they're planning, as they're moving ahead, as they're making decisions in their business. And the only way you can actually do that is when you know your numbers. And so the first part says it's critical to know your numbers now. And why is that? Number one, we are still in unprecedented times. COVID is still happening. Depending on where you're living, the implications are different. Lots of easing up certainly happening in the US. We're seeing it a lot more than Canada. We're starting to ease up in Canada, but things are still uncertain with so many of these new variants coming. It's still putting things kind of in turmoil. And not only then does that have health challenges for all of us as we're navigating how we do things, how do we work with our clients, how do we keep potentially employees safe, how do we keep ourselves safe, but then also what does that mean for the economy? What's that going to mean for our business prospects as we move forward? Okay, and so unprecedented times is number one. Number two, every company's financial situation is different. And no two companies are identical. People have different strengths, people have different challenges. And the pandemic has been phenomenal for some. Even with lots of opportunity and business growth, that can actually lead to cash flow challenges as more money gets tied up either in receivables or things like that. And so some people were having a harder time during the pandemic. Some people may have pivoted, switched their strategy up, and they're actually looking at doing something a little bit different than they used to. And so just keeping that in mind and knowing that everybody's financial situation is different. And so it's important to know yours and then to determine how you're moving forward. And the third point is two things that I know to be true. There are absolutely strong companies in every industry. And those that plan very much perform better. And I was working at TD Bank during the financial crisis in 2008. We certainly knew that companies that had cash reserves, who were doing cash flow forecasting, who were doing planning and actually reacting and making plans to those numbers, they did very well and they came through that very well. So Sean's very helpfully dropped in the chat for you, just that little recap there that goes in your workbook. So the 3 boxes to fill in. So unprecedented times, every company's financial situation is different. And 2 things that I know to be true are that there's those strong companies in every industry and those that plan perform better. Now we want to talk about how do we assess our financial situation, and that is absolutely key. And so profit, which is your income statement, is based on accounting rules, and it reflects all of your revenues and expenses. So I'm going to say it a little bit plainer. Most business owners, when they're looking at the results, look at their income statement or profit and loss that shows all of their sales and that shows all of their expenses. And that's for a certain period of time. That can be for a month, it could be a year, it could be for a quarter. And so that all gets put together based on accounting rules. And we don't have a lot of discretion around all of those kinds of things. We have to follow the rules. And I know that I've seen so many companies who were profitable on paper. So they had more sales than they actually had for expenses, but they were not getting that cash in and they were not able to collect that, not have it at their disposal. And so while they were certainly profitable on paper, they were not able to continue their business. And unfortunately, I've seen businesses go under in as quick as 90 days because they didn't have other sources of cash to be able to fill those gaps. And so other sources could be access to credit. So something like a line of credit. It could also be, and in the business, it could be access to one personally, and it can also be putting in personal reserves. And so depending on who your clients are and what that's going to look like, especially for you, Angela, as you're thinking about it, if they're going to be corporates or they're going to be all individuals who are paying, you're going to want to think through what are those payment terms. And so we want to get into that difference between what is that profit versus what is cash flow. And so right on the bottom of page 2, what is cash flow? And this is the most simple I can make it. We have what's coming into our bank account, the inflows. We have what's going out, the outflows, and that timing that those inflows and outflows happen is absolutely cash flow. And so absolutely critical in your business to think through almost that customer journey. As soon as you start working with them, what is the flow of the money and how does that look? And do you understand it? And depending on your clients, you might have a couple different groups of clients who have different payment patterns and the way that the cash flows is different. And so that's absolutely important to understand. And that final piece on page 2 is sales is not the same as cash or cash flow. And so just like I was saying, we can have lots of sales, but if nobody actually pays us, we don't have that cash flow in the business to be able to keep things running. And whether that's to pay ourselves, whether that's to pay our bills, pay our suppliers, how are we going to go about doing that? I'm going to pause to see if there's any questions. And we're a small group today, so feel free to unmute or drop something in the chat if you've got a question or want some clarification, even to add a comment based on how you're experiencing that. Everybody's good? All right, so we're going to move on to page 2. Or 3, excuse me. And so this is where we've got to get really focused on whose job is this, okay? So as business owner, I am accountable for the financial position of the company, okay? So you are accountable. If you have a partner, the both of you are responsible, but it is absolutely the owner of the business to be responsible for the financial position of the company. And the good thing to know, though, is I do not have to do it alone. I can make use of professionals like an accountant, a bookkeeper, a financial planner, a financial coach to support me. And so let's talk a little bit about this, because it's really, really important that we kind of distinguish what's my job versus their job when we're in our companies. So when I'm making decisions for my business, I need to have numbers to help inform me about that. I need to be able to make sure that I know what is going on, but I don't have to sit down and do the bookkeeping myself. That doesn't need to be my job, but it is my job to look at the bookkeeping and the information when it's prepared. When I'm working with an accountant, yes, they're going to prepare my annual financial statements. They may be doing my tax filings, and that's their job. But it is my job to then look at the results, to start asking them questions. What are you seeing? How does my company look? If I'm working with a financial planner, yes, they're going to make the plan, but do I understand it? Does it actually hit my needs? And all of those kinds of things. So you do not have to do it alone, but you have to be an active participant. It's not something you passively just pass off to somebody else to do. And unfortunately, I kind of see people, business owners fall into one of two camps. Number one, they've got these financial people employed and they just delegate everything and pass it off and they don't look at the numbers. And they just think that everything's fine or those people will tell them. And unfortunately, I've seen tons of bad accountants and bookkeepers over the years, and that can really mess up someone's business. When your books are not done correctly, it absolutely creates additional expense. It takes a lot of time, and it can create problems in the business because you're not actually dealing with accurate information. And so really, really critical to find people that you can trust. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the week. But make sure you're being diligent on it. And so it's not your job to know how to do all the accounting entries, but it is your job to look at the results. If you're starting and you're a little bit smaller in scale at this point, you're going to do that yourself. You might do it in an Excel spreadsheet. You may not be even using an accounting software, but you're keeping on top of all of the sales and all of the expenses. And certainly when we're starting our business, when we're ramping up, even if we're going through a period of growth, we're probably going to have a lot more expenses than we do sales at the beginning. And that's how that's going to turn out. So you're accountable, but you don't need to do it alone. You certainly have professionals that you can work with. And so the key takeaway I want you to have, and I want you to think about this. So close your eyes for a minute if you're comfortable. Just kind of focus on this question. What would entrepreneurial peace look like for my business, my family, and I? Specifically, if I was in control of my financial results and cash flow, what would that look and feel like? What would it allow me to do? So think about those feelings, think about what that would look like, think about differences it might make in your business, in your life, and jot some things down there in your workbook, whether you've got it on paper or you've got it on your computer, because I want you to keep this feeling. I want you to think about this when you're doing the stuff that might be not so fun, when you're looking at those results, and that keep in mind the reason why you're doing it. Why is it important to you? Is it so that you can fulfill commitments you've made to your family? Is it so that you can be saving for your retirement? Is it for vacations that hopefully we get to go on in the near future? Is it for children's education? What are all the reasons why it's important? And so having that steady paycheck, having calm and peace from a financial perspective in your business, why is that important to you? So just take a moment to do that. And everybody's answer is going to be different. And that's the great thing, is that everybody should have their own individual goals and individual reasons for why they're doing what they're doing. I'll give you one more minute to work on that. I think it's important to jot it down when you're thinking about it so that you don't lose sight of what that is and that feeling is. And that's middle of the page on page 3. All right, so we're going to move down to the bottom of page 3. And I want you to think through this, so to do some brainstorming. And this is going to spur you on to some thoughts you're probably going to have later on today as all of this kind of settles. How does my cash flow cycle correspond to the sales and expenses in my business? So we're purely thinking about it, that inflow, that outflow, the timing that it's happening. So the hint is to think through what happens when you make a sale to a customer. When and how does the cash flow into the business, and then paying expenses, when and how does it flow out? And so for Angela, you might be thinking, just trying to figure that out. And you might be trying to figure out, how am I going to start paying people? What are the ways I'm going to do that? Am I going to sell packages? Am I going to get them to pay every time? How is that going to look? Judy, I'm sure, has an established routine for that because of the number of years you've been in business. But thinking through and understanding it, and then knowing, does that differ based on different groups of clients? Is it going to be different? So think about that. How does my cash flow cycle correspond to my sales and expenses in my business? And I can tell you it really varies across the industries. If we think about an event planning company, as soon as you decide you want to work with them, you're going to put at least a 50% deposit. On the day of your event, they're going to be looking for the remainder of funds, either that day or the day right before they're going to go ahead and do anything with you. And that ensures that they have the cash to pay for all the things they need to do on that day. They have the cash to pay for their employees. If you're working with a lawyer, or you have a legal business and you are a lawyer, you may charge clients and put them on retainer. Or you may deal with kind of individual clients where you deal with them once and then it's always a steady stream of new clients. And so you may bill them after the work is done. If that's the case, are they corporates or are they individuals? And then how long does it take for them to pay their bill? And so oftentimes I've seen with a lot of law firms, all the way from sole practitioner up to larger firms, that there can be this delay in those payments, whether their ultimate client is an individual or a corporate entity. And so thinking through, what is that timing difference? Okay. Could you potentially bill on milestones? So perhaps it's against completion milestones of certain elements of service-based, or it could be actually physical production of certain things. So thinking through, how does that cash flow cycle really tie in to the sales and the expenses in your business? Okay, and everyone's is going to be different. So sometimes it's easier to map it through that one customer all the way through the journey than think about another one of those customers. Okay. Any questions so far? No, everybody's good. All right. So let's jump on to page 4. And it's kind of a couple skill testing questions, not necessarily skill, but to get a kind of a temperature gauge and kind of a little bit of an audit in terms of what you're doing in your business or what you might want to be doing. So let's focus on you and your business. So number 1, do I look forward to working on the financial side of my business, or do I put it off? What do I do with that? And you don't need to share it unless you want to. I see Judy laughing. She might want to share. So do you look forward to it? Because that's a big clue. Usually she puts it off. Usually we put off the things we don't think are as fun, okay? Even though we know they're important, sometimes we put them off. Do you have separate personal and business bank accounts? And so for Angela, that might be just the question you're starting to have if you haven't got there yet, and for others. And certainly it can become, it's a lot more straightforward when you're an incorporated entity, when you have that corporation, because you're going to go and get the bank account that lines up with the entity, and you probably have more than one. So if you're a sole proprietor and you're working under your own name, sometimes the tendency is just to kind of commingle everything together. So you want to be thinking about, even if you are operating under your own name, how can we keep that separate and keep those things different? Number 3, do you produce financial reporting on a regular basis for your business? So monthly bookkeeping. And so if not, will you? Is that the plan? How often are you seeing your numbers? Is it that 1 year you're looking back in the rear view when it's kind of 16 months since the year end? Or are you seeing current financial information? And then even if you do have it, do you review it regularly and use it to make decisions? And that's the key. That's the goal, and that's what we want to get to. Okay, so Judy says, yes, do not review it regularly, waiting for an accountant to produce it. Is that for year end or your monthlies?
For monthlies,
Okay.
yeah, we switched to an accounting software that's supposed to allow you to do that regularly, but it's just still hasn't happened yet. Yeah,
Okay. What software are you using?
zero
Okay,
accounting. Yeah.
perfect. All right. And so figuring out a regular routine, and we're going to get into that this week to talk about what are those routines that we're going to absolutely want to put into place. So we talked about brainstorming. What does that entrepreneurial piece look like? And we also talked about now these kind of nuts and bolts of things. How is that cash flow cycle happening? What is going on with that? Are we putting attention on that side of our business? Do we have things kind of separated? Do we have that reporting? And really what's happening with that? And so it can be very straightforward. We can sit down and look at it methodically, and we can make time for those natural routines. Or we might be so busy in our business, we don't necessarily do that. We might be thinking about it on the fly, and how can we set up that discipline? And so it's really individual to every business and to everybody's schedule and how they're going to put that in and frame that into practice. And so think about your situation. Think about what might be causing you the biggest stress right now. It might be that you don't know your numbers. And so that's the first thing you need to be on. For other people who are joining us, whether live right now or on the replay, it may be that I need to make some modifications. So I'm not changing everything. I'm just going to tweak the things that I am doing so that I can have a better sense of what's going on in my business. And if I'm just starting, I want to set it up right. I don't want to come back in 1 year's time or 2 years' time and have to redo every single thing that I've already done, which is key. So action items for tonight. I want you to think about, what are the first 3 things I need to do so I can better understand the financial position in my business and use my financial results to make decisions. And so be very specific, and no action is too small. Okay. So nothing is too small. So what are the first 3 things you can do? And I know when we did this training in May, Tuesday, people were already telling us about some of the things they had done. And so particularly if you got things commingled, make an appointment or start the ball rolling to get that separate bank account. If it's a follow-up to the accountant to see what's going on with the results, put that email out. It's not that we're actually necessarily accomplishing everything, but we're putting those balls into motion and thinking through what are the specific actions that we need to take. Okay. I touched on it at the beginning that generally people fall into kind of 1 or 2 camps who haven't really focused on the financial side of their business. You've started your business because you are passionate and you excel at what you do, and you have a strength for it, and you love supporting your clients in the way that you do. And unless you've gone to business school, very particularly, and that may not even have assisted too much, but there's this kind of feeling of sometimes shame, embarrassment around, I don't know my numbers. But the part that comes with it is I feel like I'm supposed to. And I want to really dispel that myth while we're here this whole week together, because you wouldn't have probably learned about it in junior high or high school. You wouldn't have learned it in post-secondary. And you started your business because you excel at what you do. You are a master at that. You service your clients. And so you've got to learn that skill just like any other skills. I know when I stopped being a banker and I started my business, I was great at like 3 things. I could analyze numbers. I could do cash flow forecasts. I could do lots of financial related things, but I didn't know how to do marketing. I didn't know how to create a website. I didn't know how to do any of that kind of stuff. So I had to learn those 47 other things. And I've observed that there doesn't seem to be shame and embarrassment that goes along when you don't know how to do social media or you don't know how to do marketing. It's different when it comes to the financial side. And so I just want everyone to understand that wherever you are starting is the place you're meant to start. You can take responsibility for and accountability for this area of your business and move through it with ease, with support. You don't need to do it alone. As I said, you certainly can can get the support that you need, you can learn the skills. And I know that when the clients that I'm working with, when they're able to bring up their confidence on the financial side, it really changes the strategic direction of the company. It ultimately changes the results. They may not increase sales, because often we find that there can be a change in the mix of the products and services they're offering. They become more profitable. And so sometimes it's about slowing things down a little bit to make more money from the work that you're actually doing. It might be pivoting clients to get to the right ones who can pay you the amount that you're worth and the value that you dictate. And so Wednesday, we're certainly going to get really deep on that with the pricing section and see how that goes. But you are absolutely in the right place to start building your financial foundation so that you can learn a little bit each day. And we're certainly going to layer on that so that we can get you where you want to be. And it's all about your pace and your speed. In my business, Visit Financial Fitness, we certainly talk about financial fitness as a journey. We're all on this journey together, but we're all starting at different places. And so it's a lifelong journey. It encompasses our personal as well as our business, and we're going to move forward on this. We're going to take steps off the path. We're going to make some missteps. That's okay. We want to get back on, and we want to try to be learning and doing new things every single day so that we can continue on this financial fitness journey. And it's not about doing everything at once. Pick the first thing. What is the most immediate action you can take today? Is it that you knew you needed to set up a spreadsheet so you can track your sales and expenses? Let's start that. How are you going to keep track of all of those expenses? Have you noticed that your profit is not as high as you thought it was going to be, or there's no profit at the end of the day and it's hard to get that steady paycheck? How can we go about figuring out why that is? And so think about what is your most pressing thing and how we can turn to that and tackle that. Okay. Any questions or comments that people have so far? Don't be shy. You can drop them in the chat too and send them just to me if you feel more comfortable. So everybody's in this learning journey together. All right. Well, I'm not going to keep you guys here long today. We've got a small group. I've gone through what I wanted to today, so I don't want to belabor it. We're going to be back tomorrow with Cash Flow Forecasting 101, and we're going to get really into the specifics about how would we do that. What are the kinds of things we need to look at? What are the pieces of information that we need to do it? And what might we want to talk about? So in a moment, I'm going to stop the recording. So anybody who does have questions, who wants to ask them without being on the recording, feel free to stay and we can have a chat about that. Sean's going to drop the link in the chat to book some time with me. I would love to connect with each one of you individually for a short call to find out more specifically about what you want to get out of the training and how I can help you. If there's very specific questions, I want to be able to make sure that I cover those off and be able to guide you to any other resources as well that can support you. This training this week is all about you and helping you advance on your financial fitness journey. So please do book some time with me. The Calendly link is there. As I said, it's a short call, but so I can help make this really tailored for you and get you what you do need to make those advancements in your business. So I'm excited for the training. I hope you are too. I'm going to let you go for today. As I said, I'm going to shut off the recording, and anybody who wants to stay with questions or just to chat a little bit, I will be here, and I will see you tomorrow. So thank you so much for showing up live. Thank you for those who are watching on the replay, and I will see you tomorrow.